All right, everybody, welcome to the Studio Founders Podcast, Episode 2. We have Ivan Pryntsev here, owner of Pryntsev Ballet Academy here in Laguna Hills, California. I'm Aaron Hollandsworth, his business partner and the marketing director here at the studio. And of course, we have Thel Moore III, which we're really excited about.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good. And you?
Doing well. I'm really
Good.
happy to have you on, and I'm sure Ivan the same. And
Very much. Thanks so much for
I'm
being
happy to
here
be
with
here.
us.
Yeah.
So, obviously I'm really excited about having you as a guest just because you're such an awesome guy and have
Thank you.
so much experience in the dance industry, but you're also one of my teachers here at the studio. So, it's very personal for me.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad to be here. That warms my heart. But yes, no, I'm happy to be here. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So I think we just want to start maybe by talking about Thel's journey in ballet, maybe, and how did you get started? And you started kind of late, right?
Yes. Well, okay. I started ballet when I was 13. But like I kind of grew up around dance. Like my mom, she did ballet when she was younger, and I have two older sisters who she put into ballet when they were younger, and I, being the youngest, was always dragged to ballet classes and such. So I kind of grew up around dance. And then when I was moving into high school, my mother wanted me to go to high school with a focus. She needed me to have a focus when I went into high school, not just to mindlessly go to school, especially because my middle sister had gone to a high school with a focus. And at the time, I was actually dancing with my mother at our church, and we had a liturgical dance group. And so I was trying to figure out what to do when I went to high school. And there were like a number of things that I picked. And then one of them was dance. I was like, well, I'm dancing now. Let me try and see if I can go to school with a focus for dance. And so I auditioned for, I think, 2 or 3 high schools, got rejected by most of them, and only got accepted into one of them, which ended up being Baltimore School for the Arts, which at the time was, or still is, one of the best arts high school or public arts high schools in the country. And from there, it just kind of dominoed effect into where we are now.
Wait, so that was a public school, but you had to audition for it?
Yes.
Wow.
It is a public school, and it operates as a public school, but it also has an arts program that everyone who goes to the school has to audition like a normal, or like a institution, or so to speak. And they have like a board and an arts foundation, all that stuff. So it kind of operates as both. But yeah, it was one of those things where it's just like, I can't believe I'm here. And
Well, I remember, I think they recorded the movie Step Up 1 in that Baltimore school. When I watched that movie, I got really inspired, and it was just pull me into the ballet.
Yeah.
It just pulled me into ballet so much.
That is actually one of the biggest, or not, I wouldn't say one of the biggest, but one inspiration for me was to go to that school because of that movie. Like I remember seeing that movie, and at the time, my middle sister was actually doing the Twigs program at Baltimore School for the Arts, which is their outreach program that they bring in elementary schools and train them after hours of the school. And so we kind of knew of the school because that's where my sister was going. And then we see this movie that's inspired by Baltimore School for the Arts. And it was just kind of like all these things that just kept integrating into one thing. Yeah, it was really cool. It was really cool.
That's amazing. I didn't know you guys had that in common.
Yeah, I'm finding that out now.
I watched the Step on 1, and
Yeah.
there was one very, very successful hip hop dancer
Right.
there. He was recording there from Step 1
Okay.
movie, and it was amazing to see that he was there and doing some ballet performance. He was a hip hop dancer, but
Right.
he was trying to get, and he needs something. I don't remember what it
I
was.
don't remember. I honestly
Yeah.
don't remember the whole plot.
But it was amazing to see how he started learning ballet with the girls and do all of those
Yeah.
things. And I get inspired. It's like, wow, there's a school. I can go and study. I can do that actually. And then, yeah, it was a
That's
big
really
moment.
cool. I
It
love
was a
that.
big click. But I have a question for you. You got in high school, you tried to get it more focused and so forth.
Mhm.
Where did love to ballet grow? Where it started?
Probably when I saw my first ballet. Okay, so I would say I started training my freshman year of high school. And then that year they took us to 2 dress rehearsals of 2 different ballet companies. The first one was Suzanne Farrell. I think the company was putting on a mixed bill, and so we saw their dress rehearsal. And then the second company, I want to say at the time, was Pennsylvania Ballet, and they were also doing a dress rehearsal, I think, of a balancing rep. Um, and those two things didn't really quite do it for me, if I'm being honest. And that's probably why I think I'm a purist at heart. Those, as great as those dancers are, it was something about the show that I was like, oh, this is cool, but I didn't really walk away inspired. And then I did my first summer intensive at Dance Theater Harlem. I think this is, I hope I'm getting this story right.
It's
And
okay.
they took us to see, no, I am getting this story right. They took us to see Sleeping Beauty. They took us to see American Ballet Theater do Sleeping Beauty. And we were all the way up in the balcony. And I remember from the very first moment, like the very first note of the overture, I was like, oh, this is very different. This is not what I'm used to. This is very, very, very different. And then the production of Sleeping Beauty happened, and I walked away going, oh my God, this is
Right.
art. This is
Right.
beautiful. This
Right.
is something that I can get behind.
And
Yeah.
it's
And
hard to explain
you
what is it, right?
yeah.
It's just you don't know what would that pull toward ballet,
Yeah.
that challenge that you want to do. It is just amazing,
Yeah.
isn't it?
It when it hits and you can't really explain that feeling. It just kind of you just fall in love with it. And there's really no words or no timeline on it. It just kind of happens. And there you are sitting there in your love of newfound ballet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I could relate to that because I started working at a dance competition at 29 years old and as a videographer. And after the first week, I just completely fell in love with dance. And prior to that, I didn't really care.
Yeah.
But it was like I saw all these kids doing all these like crazy dance routines and
Yeah.
just everything from ballet to jazz, hip hop, tap, whatever. And I was just amazed, and it hit me like a freight train.
It does,
So,
yes.
yeah.
When you fall in love with this art form, it hits you, and then there's no turning back.
Right,
Like, there's no
exactly.
turning back. Once you fall in love with it, you're done.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. That yeah.
Do you see ballet as something cool? It's something like, oh, that's so cool. Sometimes you do sport, or sometimes you
Right.
do some sort of like modeling, or you do something artistry movie, and some people see it as a cool. Do you see ballet as something as a cool thing?
Yeah. I mean, I guess maybe sometimes I don't. Like sometimes, like when you're too into it, and then it's like, okay, this is just one of those things that I'm doing again and again and again. But when those times where I get to take a step away and like look at it from not being so hands-on, but just being able to look at it as a spectator, that's when I go, oh yeah, no, this is a very cool thing we do. Like not everyone's going on stage, putting on a costume and being able to tell a story with their body. Like it's just not a thing that you can just get up and do. Like you have to spend time with it, you have to love it, you have to be engrossed by it. And I think that's a very cool thing to do, to just be able to tell a story with your body. Yeah. So it's very cool to me.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Okay, so you talked about your time at Baltimore, but you actually moved to Connecticut at some point, right?
Yes.
To pursue ballet more. So, did you make that move specifically because of ballet, or was there other like family reasons or other personal reasons behind that?
Mostly ballet. I would say mostly ballet. Like, so my the school I was in at Baltimore School of the Arts, we had a nutcracker and everything. And um the way our nutcracker was, it was reduced to the point, if there were not a lot of males in the school at the time, they could still put a production on and still carry through with the story. And although that was great, at the time that I was at the school, there were a large number of us. And I saw that there would not be as much opportunity for me to grow if I stayed. Um, but also at the same time, that summer intensive the summer before that I moved to Connecticut, I did 2 summer intensives, the Kirov Ballet Academy and Nutmeg. And when I was at Kirov, I got engrossed by pure Bogdanova ballet and meeting people around the world. And I was just like, that's so cool. Like I never had an experience where I was meeting so many people around the world and we're all gathered to do ballet. That was really cool. And then when I moved to Nutmeg, I found this really warm, safe space that was still rooted in this Vaganova training, that was where everyone was aiming to do ballet. And I kind of fell in love with the space. I mean, also, if you look at the school, you're in the hills of Connecticut, everything is beautiful, and then you're going into this beautiful studio. What's not to love? And so at that point, it was just they were like, we have these opportunities for male dancers. They have numerous male roles, and then they had a spring show, they had a graduation show. I just saw myself being able to dance more there, as well as being surrounded by lovely people. And so it kind of was just like, I have to be here. And it ended up happening, which I'm so grateful for. But it was more so just ballet. Like I really wanted to be surrounded by ballet. I think because at the time, also Kirov had offered me position in their year-round school as well. And at the time, I was still toying around with the idea of, do I want to be a ballet dancer? Do I want to be a modern dancer? Because at Baltimore School of the Arts, we had training in both ballet and in modern. And so I was kind of like, everyone kept telling me, you probably want to go with more of the modern route. But every time I went into a modern class, I was like, I hate this. This is not for me. Like, I don't feel the same way I feel when I am in a ballet class. Like I always loved doing my ballet classes, modern class. And they even fast tracked me in the modern route. Like, I was a level above in my modern track than I was in my ballet track, but I still had more love for ballet. And so I was just like, I want to do ballet, I want to do ballet, I want to do ballet. And Nutmeg offered me the opportunity to just engross myself with ballet. And I really think that was also important just in my training. And later now in my years, I know that if the more you can engross yourself in ballet, the better you'll come out of it. So that's why I think it just felt right to do it. So I ended up in Connecticut 2 years later.
Why you think that you had that pull toward ballet more? Is because of the challenge? Because I think young dancers, they should know,
Mhm.
they should know that information will be very helpful. Do you think you felt more challenged toward ballet than contemporary? That's why you were on the route to ballet.
Maybe that could be it. Like I think my first ballet teacher was really great, and I think she's part of the reason why I became a teacher is because there's just so much history and so much knowledge when it comes to ballet. Like everything has a reason. You're not doing anything just for the sake of doing it. You're doing it for a reason. And modern has that same mindset as well, but everything stems from ballet, I think. And the movement of ballet, the ideas of ballet just kind of aligned with who I am and who I wanted to be as a dancer. Like this structured lyricism of my body translated well to ballet. And I think also growing up in a church where you're doing liturgical movement, although it's not ballet, it's still posed and spiritual and again guided in a sense the way ballet is. So it kind of just aligned with where I was and where I wanted to go, and that's why I think I stuck with the ballet and why I wanted to be with the ballet because it just felt right inside.
You see, the reason why I ask, because I start from hip hop contemporary
Mhm.
classes and it's fun. It's very cool, right?
Yeah.
We say before. But then, going into ballet, it's the same thing, but at
Mhm.
the same time, you come back to it.
Right.
And you know the reason why, right?
Right.
It's the same thing every day for years and years and years, from very slow to a little bit faster, a little bit faster.
Faster, right, right.
Just a little bit, but it's the same move.
Oh, yes,
And then
yeah.
the hip hop and contemporary, it's all new routine all the
Just
time.
right.
And we still being pulled toward ballet.
Ballet.
I don't, maybe it's because of our personality,
Personalities.
or it's because we feel like, oh, there's another level of
Mhm.
that,
Right.
level of
Yeah.
us to do a little better in
Mhm.
that movement, a little
Yeah,
better, a little
right,
better.
right. I can
And
do
then
it
you
better
come
next
back to
day,
it,
yeah.
it's like you're addicted to that, those
Exactly,
video games, and you
yes.
come back and you're trying to get better, even though it's hard, it's
It's
painful,
full, yes,
but you come back to
you
it.
always come back to it, and it's like and it's also it's the building block on what all dance forms are, right? Ballet is the first dance art form that you can go sit down and say this was structured, has a way to train and go ahead and make a career. Not all like it's kind of starts with ballet, and then you've got your contemporary, you've got your modern, you've got your jazz, you've got tap. All of that has a vocabulary that stems from ballet. So it's like also at the same time, like, yes, to want to do all of those other dance forms is great, but to have a foundation and understanding of the body, it's so great to have that ballet training because you, like I said earlier, you have to no, nothing's done for no reason, right? You have to understand your body and know where to put everything. And that once you have that understanding, you can then go and do any other thing you want to do with a with a sense of pride and strength. And why would you not want that?
You know how important is to get in the right place from the beginning of your journey because time in ballet it's limited.
Yes.
Sometimes then older you get, the difficult it becomes.
Yes.
Unfortunately, that's
Yes.
I know your goals.
They all look at me.
Honestly, I'm trying to retrain myself right now. So yes, no, I understand. Yes.
How important it is to get, because I remember when I started, it was really, it's fine school where I went to, but if I went to the people who are really special at it
Yeah.
and really know what they do and really and the environment around it too. What do you think? How important is to get in the right place from the beginning,
Oh my
not
God.
later?
Yeah.
Beginning, like first steps. Any parents, any children, what would you say?
I would say that's extremely important. I think that is a strong base in your foundation, like an understanding what your technique is really important. Like I'm super grateful that I went to places that had a strong foundation and I just ignored it. If I'm being honest, just because I wanted to dance, because I came to it later in life and I really just wanted to dance. So like I absorbed a lot of the information that they told me, but I didn't really apply it to myself until much later. And even now, I'm really trying to apply what they were saying to me. It might be a little too late, but at least I have the knowledge. And I think it's important that someone has that knowledge to know what the right things are because you get one body. And if you start out or if you have a foundation of doing things wrong, you're just going to keep doing them wrong and not understanding why you're constantly injured, why you're constantly in pain. Like, yes, dancing puts wear and tear on your body. And so you are going to have that pain. But if you have a strong understanding and you've gone through the correct way to train, you're not going to put more miles on that car, if you know what I mean. Like, you're not going to keep or causing more harm to your body if you have a good understanding of your technique, of your body, of the way the muscles are supposed to activate and how everything is supposed to connect. So I think it's extremely important that there's a strong foundation and that you get to the right place or go to the right teacher that has that knowledge to pass on. And I also think it's important that it becomes a family affair. Like oftentimes I see dancers get dropped off and then their parents have no understanding of what's going on in the classroom. And it can be a family affair where parents, siblings, aunts, uncles all have this understanding of you can be great if you do this. Like growing up, I always heard the saying, "It takes a village," right? It takes a village to raise one child, and to that, I personally think that if that village wants that child to succeed, they all have to be pushing. They all have to be understanding what that child needs to do to achieve a high level. So it can't so you're not getting this it's just all on this one person, you know?
Do you-
Does that make sense?
that
Yeah.
that all makes sense. Do you think it's because parents these days gives a lot of choices to their children at the young age?
That's part of it. Yes. It's we're definitely in a world where everyone has their phones and that's kind of where they're locked into and it's not as much of because like I said when my sisters were growing up my mother and I sat outside their ballet studios for the full hour and a half. And maybe some of it was because maybe my mother wanted to sit and talk with the other moms. Maybe she didn't want to take me anywhere. Maybe it was because she was a dancer, but she didn't have a whole lot of things to do with me. You're just going to sit there and we're going to engross ourselves in what the girls are doing because that's what's happening. And I think some of it is, yes, we have access to so much now. So it's like, yes, I can do one thing for an hour, but in that hour, I can also do another thing. I can do another thing, and then I can do another thing. And so it ends up being that everyone's in a bunch of different places all at once.
Do you think it's just they want to be everything? They want to be the best at everything,
Everything.
and
Yes.
that's the problem, that they cannot get any point good.
I think it is harder to be the best at everything for sure, because in order to be the best, as I said earlier, you have to engross yourself in it. And if you're picking and choosing, you're not really engrossing yourself in it. And in order to be the best, you have to say no to everything else and say, this is the thing that I want to be great at, and be great at it. Doing no
Sacrifice.
distraction. Yes.
Sacrifice.
100%. One of my favorite quotes from Roberto Bollet is that he didn't become who he was just because it was meant to be. He had to make a lot of sacrifices to be as great as he was. And so if you're willing to make the sacrifice, you'll receive that greatness. But if you're not willing to make that sacrifice, you're not going to receive greatness.
But people may make usually sacrifice from place of pain,
Mhm.
right? Place of changes,
Yeah.
lives, motivations. I want to become something better for my family. I want to become something bigger. I want to provide for my family.
Yes.
They make that sacrifice. They sacrifice themselves, and they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna get rich. I'm gonna work so hard for my family to provide for them eventually."
Yeah.
What do you think in these cases when everything is great, things are going good?
Right. That's true. Yes. I do think a lot of people make sacrifices in that way. Um, I will say I was fortunate to not have to make a sacrifice in that way. It was more for me, it was, I think, in other ways for me, it was a social aspect. Where kids were going to prom and going to homecoming and having that normal life. Number one, it didn't really appeal to me, and number two, it was just like, why would I go to prom, or why would I go to homecoming? Why would I go to some social event when I can be in the studio, right? Doing the thing that I love, becoming better and greater at the thing that I love. So it was more of a sacrifice in that sense. And when things are great, when you have that family that can support you in a way where you don't have to make a sacrifice, where you're trying to elevate your family, then you have to make a sacrifice somewhere else, right? They're always, no matter where, no matter how great, quote unquote, great your life is, you still have to make a sacrifice if you want to be great at something. And if the goal is to be great, then you've got to sacrifice school life or social life, or something has to give in order for you to be great. There's just no greatness because of waking up in the morning and saying that you're great. There has to be a sacrifice, and there has to be hard work.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, I've realized that recently, and it's kind of something that we know, right? Is that there's some kind of sacrifice that has to be made. But and like you talk about pain, and me and Ivan were just talking the other day, and he's all, man, like we're putting ourselves through so much pain to try to be successful and whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it's like, is this the way that it's supposed to be? And the answer is yes.
Yes.
Unfortunately,
The answer is yes.
yes.
I mean, like, as much as, I hate it, but I am on my phone all the time, and I am always on Instagram and looking at whatever pop star or whatever entrepreneur is, getting on a private jet or this, that, or the other. But they all, at the end of the day, every single one of them says that it took hard work, it took sacrifice. No one handed them anything. It just was the hard work and the sacrifice that they put into it to get them to that point. And no, that's just life. No matter what um field or line of work you're in, you have to sacrifice. You have to give up something. And a lot of these people, they give up social lives. You're not seeing them at every single party. They'll go to like a fashion event here and there, but it's not consuming their life the way some people want certain things like that to consume their life. And you just have to make that sacrifice.
Agreed. I'm with you on it. I know the sacrifice has to be made and a lot of work has to be put. But what about those who fail it? And there's so many of those too, right?
Yes.
There's so many who give up in the middle,
Mhm.
right? And
Yeah.
didn't finish what they started. And there's so many of those cases that are happening that, it's difficult in life. What do you think about that?
I think if you've put in the work and it didn't work, then I would say yes. Sometimes, in life, you do have to take a step back and evaluate and go, is this the thing that I need to keep giving to if it's not giving anything to me? But if you're young and you're hearing things that people are telling you, and believing that it's true without actually putting in that extra effort or that going that extra mile, then I think you do yourself a bit of a disservice because again, before we started, we were talking about Misty Copeland, and if she had listened to people early on in her training, she would not have made it to the point where she had made it. So it's a time thing. You have to give everything, allow everything to serve its full time before you take that step away. I mean, and it's hard to know when that is because it's different for everyone because everyone's journey is different. But I do think that if you've put in the time, you've gone that extra mile, you feel in your heart of hearts that you've put all you could into it and it's not giving you anything, then I think you can leave or step away with a head held high because you yourself know you put your best foot forward.
Right.
Whereas if you've stopped short because of what someone else said, then I don't think that that is, um I just don't think I would have ever done something like that. And maybe it's just pride, but
I think people give up earlier a little bit too because they compare themselves to the people who've done it so much in the past,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So say I might when I got to this place and I've been doing this for 6 months, and I'm trying to relate myself to the person who've done that for 10 years,
Years, right.
right? And it was like 6 months and 10 years. That's very
Right.
different. Same thing for the dancers too. For the
Yeah.
young dancers, they thinking of like some of the YGP dancers, comparative dancers, they studied it from 6 years old. They train really, really
Yeah.
hard, right? And I have a students or overall, I hear different experiences. They start for 6 months in a year, they didn't get plays,
Mhm.
and they trying to compare themselves to
Themselves.
those dancers.
Right.
How is it possible?
It's not like you can't like comparing. Mikhail Baryshnikov said it best, I think, is just like, don't compare yourself to anyone else. You're comparing yourself to you. You need to show up and be better than you were the day before. And that's the only person you should hold yourself to. Because like you said, I mean, there's no way someone, no matter how naturally talented you are, there's no way anyone who started 6 months to a year can compare to someone who's been training since they were six. Right. Especially if someone who's been training since they were six and we're serious about it, right? Because sometimes we say someone who's been training since they were six, but maybe those first 3 years were kind of silly and they did stars and jump from one sticker to the other. But if it's someone's been training seriously
Right.
since they were six, and now you're both 16 and you started when you were 15, they started when you were six, you'll have time to catch up, but it's not within that year. That first year is truly learning foundations of where to put everything. And once you get to maybe year two and a half, three at those later years, then you can maybe start to say, have I caught up? But that first year, there should be no comparison to to someone else because that foundation takes so long to learn and to understand.
Yeah, especially with ballet and
Yes.
in general.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is it's a tedious process and it's slow and it's painful. Just it's painfully mentally. I mean, I don't know about you, but again, my first ballet teacher, we started off with 4 count demi plies, 4 count tendus, 4 count fondus. It wasn't just like it wasn't just get the concept and do it,
Right.
but you're going to do this correctly.
Right.
And again, I'm glad I did that because now understand what it is that I'm trying to do. But there was no way that group of teenagers that started when we all were 13 were comparing to the other group of teenagers that came into the school with us that had been training since they were 6, 7,
Right.
8 years old and were serious about it. There's no way that we were ever going to ever be on the same level with them. And that's why things happened the way they did, but it's important, and then they kept us separate, and I think that was really important too, because once you get that comparison, things start to happen mentally that you can't really come back from. So it's really important that you not compare yourself to someone who's been training since they were young if you're coming into this later.
Have you noticed that the world a little bit changed and now we want things fast? Right? And the new
Yes.
generation is on it too.
Yeah.
So, and expecting things from ballet, from dance fast become a problem. And I think there's a lot of people just dropping from dance. I think if we look at the world numbers of dancers, I think it went a little bit down.
Yeah.
I didn't look at it, but I just that's how it
It
feels.
feels.
Yeah,
Right.
how it feels. Do you think it's the world problem that youth generation right now has less resilience that it was before in our generation?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, each generation is gonna say that. I feel like that it's always we get one step further from where we were before. Um, but it is I don't even know where I'm going with this. Mm, Yes, it's a slow process. And so like whenever I think of ballet, I think of like when it was first becoming a technique, right? It wasn't just someone coming to it every now and then. They were sitting there, or not sitting there, but they were training for hours every single day. And they were allowed to do that because it was a simpler time. And now we're fast forward hundreds of years later, we're in a world where so many other things come first than being an artist, especially in the States. So people aren't giving that same amount of time that it needs to become, or just to have that understanding. And so I think it isn't just an individual thing like you were saying. I think it is just a society thing where we're not allowing um people to be individuals. Everyone has to kind of be grouped together as society, and society tells you to do this one thing, and then that's what you do. And it has nothing to do with art. It's just, make a life, make money so you can live, and then that's it. But there's so much more to life, and there's so much more to humans. Like, some humans are artists, some humans aren't. Some humans are business people, some people are entrepreneurs, and everyone has their little niche that makes them them. Um, but we don't always cultivate space for those individuals. We kind of push everyone as a collective. And so that's where we kind of lose the ability to train or to make artists in that sense. That way, hundreds of years ago,
Right.
they were allowed to be individuals. They were allowed to spend so much time
Right.
on one thing.
Right.
Yeah.
But things has to be done fast these days, right? Have you
Yes.
noticed that?
Very
All this
fast.
change?
Very
Very
fast.
fast.
I wish we would slow down, because there's so much beauty in the details.
Right.
And there's so many nuances. But yes, things have to happen instantly. And if they don't happen instantly, somehow it's seen as a negative.
Right.
But I mean, I don't personally see it as a negative, but yes, Amazon. I mean, you're talking up to Amazon. I mean, the fact that I
Come on.
can, yeah,
Access,
yeah,
the books, ebooks, everything. Before
everything.
people has to go to library, right? Or to build a relationship, they have to send mail to the other person, and the other person has to wait. But now
Yeah.
things happen instantly. I get it, right?
Right.
And it's great from one side. From another, it becomes a problem because people start enjoying a little less.
That's-
Seeing through a little bit less.
Yeah. Yeah. I would have 100% agree. The ability to get things instantly is both a pro and a con. Like, when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh my God, I ran out of my vitamins. And I can like go on Amazon and get it later that day. I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. But then when I'm sitting in a theater and realizing that, people did not have enough time to prepare for something just because it had to get thrown together, I'm just like, that's where we're losing that beauty of the art form. The fact that people were able to sit with something and work out all of the rough edges to make sure that something an audience was coming to see is as beautiful as it could possibly be. And I think that I mean that's the point of art, right? Is that you're showcasing this thought that you spent time on, that you didn't just whip together for the sake of whipping something together, but because you were trying to create an emotion for someone to experience.
Yeah. That goes back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier about sacrifice and having to sacrifice in order to reach your goals. And I just can't help but feel that the reason, a lot of people give up too soon, right? Because we talked about failure, and I really think that's the only true failure
Yeah.
is, when you give up too soon, because oftentimes the people who succeed as dancers or otherwise aren't necessarily the most talented from the get-go.
Yeah.
They're people who simply won't give up, right?
Right.
And they'll put in that sacrifice. But I think that society pressures us, right?
Yes.
And I know from my own experience, and I'm sure you guys can relate, is like when you're pursuing like these huge lofty goals for your life
Yeah.
that you may or may not accomplish, but at the end of the day, you have to try, right? Because
yeah.
no one ever said, I regret trying to pursue my dreams.
Correct.
Right. So,
Correct.
so,
Yes.
but my point is like people pressure us. Like I know my dad, he's like very much like a workaholic. He's very money centric.
Yeah.
And he's never really, I mean, I guess maybe he could say he's passionate about manufacturing. I don't know. I
Okay.
can't speak for
Yeah.
them. You know what I mean? But like my point is not trying to project on him, but I know I've gotten a lot of pressure from him and other people in my life. Like, hey, why don't you just go get a regular job? And it's like, well, yeah, I've done that.
Yeah.
And I've discovered that that's not within my calling at this time,
Right.
So I'm doing a lot of things that don't make me a lot of money right now, and I'm pursuing my dreams. And
Right.
yeah, a lot of people would say it's crazy,
Yes.
but I can't listen to them, right? I have
Correct.
to do what I believe is right, what I believe God is calling me to do, and just pursue that wholeheartedly.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'll never regret that. So yeah, I think that's it. I think people just get a lot of pressure from outside
Side.
sources.
Oh, absolutely.
And maybe because they don't value the arts so much, like you're talking about, or maybe there are other reasons, like you said, like people, like you got to make money, you got to support your
Yeah.
family. So it's tough. But I mean, I think my biggest takeaway is I would just encourage people to not listen to the outside noise.
Absolutely.
Just listen to
Do
the voice within,
And you gotta
and
stick
just
with it.
do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
You
So-
gotta stick with it for
Yeah.
sure. I 100% agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Like if you listen to those outside voices, they will they'll stop you at every single turn. Not just in your arts journey or wherever you're going. If you listen to outside voices, they'll most likely stop you at every single turn. So no matter what it is you're doing, you have to believe in your heart of hearts and that believe in your gut and just go for what makes you happy, right? I mean, oftentimes I'm like, I sit around because like you said, when you're pursuing your dreams, you don't always get to make a lot of money. And I like, oh, wouldn't it be so nice, just have a 9 to 5 that,
Like
I have a solid salary and like, wouldn't that just be great? But then I'm like, but no, because then I'd be stuck back into that conformity, that box that everyone feels pressured to be in. And why should I feel pressured to be in a life when we should just be living life and doing what feels right? So yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. Don't listen to those voices. Just stick with what you believe you want to do with your life. Yeah.
So, and I think we could segue that, and like you've talked about how when you first fell in love with ballet, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when did you feel that inner calling? When did you know like this is what I have to do? Like I have so many options, and maybe this is one of the riskiest things that I could do with my life. Obviously, you had a lot of support, like from your mother and
Yeah.
stuff. So I think that you had an advantage in that sense, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes. Oh yeah. I wouldn't say that. My parents never really turned me away from pursuing the career. It was just kind of like, oh wow, you're actually doing this, Because at the time, even when I got to Nutmeg, it was still like, options were still there where I could go to college, where I could have a professional career. And I think it was like even up until I did my first company audition, I was still debating on if I was going to apply to college. But I would say probably somewhere. I'm trying to think. What
The
did I do?
Sleeping Beauty performance?
No, it would have been after that. It was somewhere along my second year training at Nutmeg that yes, because my teachers just had such great careers and they just made having a career in dance sound amazing. And I was like, you're telling me I get to dance and make a living. Yeah, so why not? So at some point, I don't know, somewhere in that year, I was just like, yeah, this is what I'm doing. Like, I don't know if it'll happen, but this is what I'm gonna try to do. And so then I did a post grad year after that, just to make sure that, everything was correct the way it needed to be correct, and that I had the confidence to go out into the world and say, like, this is what I'm going to do. But like it was somewhere along that second year that I was like, this is it for me. Like this is definitely what something I want to be doing. I want to try to pursue this because at night when you're living in a studio, because I could walk like 10 feet and be inside the ballet studio. So yeah, at night, I'm sitting there dreaming and I'm having dreams of, on stage dancing. And I'm just like, of course I can do this. So I just kind of just like put everything aside and was like, I'm doing this. And I'm so grateful because again, here we are today. That domino effect led me here.
Tell, I have a question. So back then, when you were studying in Baltimore and Connecticut, how was life there? For the old, what is the difference to train here as a professional ballet dancer or
Mm,
train there? Because many people might consider to move.
mm,
Many people might consider to
Typical
study a
study
different place.
places.
Maybe they'll have more opportunities or
Um,
want to hear from you. Um,
I think I honestly don't think there is a huge difference. I think it's just a matter of um how you choose to train. Um and what options you have to train.
right.
And so because my training in Connecticut was only slightly different when from Baltimore. In Baltimore I was because it was like a high school, I was only there 5 days a week, only. Still 5 days a week. I had ballet. Ballet class was every single day. Modern, I believe, was 3 days a week, and then partnering was 2 days a week. And so the only difference there was, like, I was able to get both ballet and partnering every single day in Connecticut. And I guess that would be the difference between East Coast and West Coast, like, or where I'm training here, I don't necessarily have the opportunities to teach partnering. And I think that's a very important part of training. And so it's just kind of like what the access you have to. And sometimes you have to, I know some kids are homeschooled so that they can stay active in their ballet training and get as much out of it. And then some people are like, no, I need to leave home and I need to be engrossed by it. And I think that was part of the reason why I left home. It's like, I knew I did need to leave home. Like I probably could have stayed at Baltimore School of the Arts, still made a trap for ballet and probably still be successful. But I knew I needed to be engrossed. I knew I needed to not have distractions from a life that I was living in Baltimore, and I needed to be somewhere where there were no connections. There was nothing but just ballet and training. And so I would say it's just how each person's different. And so if you're able to stay in a place and give yourself all these opportunities and things to train hard every single day, making sure you're showing up for yourself 100% of the time, every single time, then staying at home is great. But if you're one of those people who sometimes get distracted easily, like me, and you need a space where you can just be surrounded by what you're trying to do, then sometimes going away, going to a school where you can train and focus is important. So I think it's an individual thing.
Well, I love Baltimore. The best, the best seafood ever that
I would
I
say
that
yes.
was that was
It's
really
very hard for
good,
me to eat
very good.
seafood
Yes.
as I travel the world. I won't eat crabs anywhere. That
I
is
know it was amazing. We're
yes.
going off track a little bit, but the food in Baltimore seafood, it was the best evening that I ever
Yes.
had.
Nah, I'm glad to hear that. I mean,
Yes,
we will.
Baltimore was amazing experience
Yes,
for me.
that's.
Amazing.
I'm glad. Like I will. We pride ourselves on those crabs, so I'm very glad to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you like ballet only, stay at home. But if you like ballet and seafood,
Go to Baltimore.
go to Baltimore.
Absolutely, yes. I will. I
But
will stand by that.
what opportunity that you're in Connecticut, right?
Yeah.
Connecticut Second School provide for young generation right now. Do they accept students? What kind of path they give?
Yeah, I would say that that pathway is still very much the same that when I went there. You know, you get that opportunity to again train 6 days a week. You get partnering, you get to perform. And I even now as the world's adapted, they've adapted their training as well. So, you know, there's even more of a step to go beyond to make sure everyone is getting everything that they need that will make them their most successful self.
Right.
Like I've gone back to teach several times now, and I've seen the student body grow, and I've seen the morale of the students build throughout the school just simply for that fact of everyone is building each other up, and there's again just this opportunity to do more. Yeah.
Then why California, Thel?
My partner and I moved out here, and it's just it's a space to be your own boss in a sense. You know, there's so many opportunities for dance, and there's so many studios and so many performances that are here in California that honestly I don't think are anywhere else. Like it's between Orange County and LA. I feel like there's just so much dance that we have access to that it just seemed right. Yeah. And so it's been a transition because I never knew that side. My teachers all danced in companies and weren't freelancers, and so that side of the profession I had no knowledge of until I moved here and just dove right into. But if you're going if you're going to start off as a freelancer, I think here in California is the best place to do it.
What about New York?
New York is great. But I would never live in New York.
That's a fair.
Yeah, I would never live in New York. I did a lot of summer internships in New York, and that was just never a place I saw myself living. I love a city for a short period of time, but I'm someone who needs space and I need to disconnect and I need quiet. And also I remember I think it was 1 year I spent 9 weeks in the city. I did 3 weeks at ABT's collegiate program, and then I did 6 weeks with the Bolsheviks program. And after the ninth week, I was like, I never need to come back to this city ever again. I like I said, I get distracted easily, and so when you're surrounded by so much noise, I just never felt like I got any sense of peace, and I need some sense of peace to go day to day. So I just never ever saw myself going to living in New York City. Like I definitely love to visit. It's a beautiful city. And again, the dance there is absolutely incredible, but that was just not a space for me. Yeah.
Do you think New York has more to offer than California for the younger generation, 18, 19, 20 years old, that wants to get to the company, wants to be part of the company, being
Yeah.
paid? Not because in California that's a little bit
Yeah. It's
difficult
right.
here
Yes.
than more there.
I would say yes, definitely. I have a friend now who, actually I went to Kirov with him many years ago, and now one of the schools that I'm affiliated with, he trained there. And he could totally live here and be a freelance artist, but there's just so much in New York City. Like there's so many
Right.
pockets of great arts organizations. And New York is just it's like the mecca of, so like for USA, you think of like these massive arts cities. Paris, New York is one of them. You've got Milan, London. You've got some like art meccas, and New York is definitely one of them. So if you're a young artist and wanting to be surrounded by a whole lot, New York is definitely a place. I mean, and you've got all the big companies there as well. So you've got the bigger companies, you've got the smaller companies, and then you've got the freelance projects. Like New York is definitely a great place.
Would you recommend all of the students 18, 19 years old to just go there and hustle in New York and do all of those things to grow faster, to get that
Faster.
accelerator?
Yeah, I mean, again, it just depends on the personality. If you have like a hardcore drive, like if you are someone that um is not easily deferred from something, can just what is it? Be a bull in a china shop and just wreck your way through everything. Like you're confident in who you are and are just willing to make it work. Then yes, I think New York could definitely be a place. I mean, there's probably, you never know who you would end up in class with or who you'd end up working with. I'm sure so many people would have never thought that they would work with someone when they moved to New York City that they gotten to work with. So I think if you're confident and strong-headed and knowing exactly what you want out of that life, then definitely 18, 19, going to New York and trying to make a name for yourself, go for it. If you're a little bit younger, a little bit passive like I was, find a space that can cultivate you and build you up to the point where you are there. But it's not, it's again, it looks that journey of becoming an artist is going to be different for everyone. So as long as, I think if you are strong-headed and confident and have the support, and that's the other thing, and you have the support by the people around you, whether it be financially, emotionally, or mentally, you've got support, people who are willing to back you up in your corner in those days when it's hard. You're saying, no, I don't believe in myself. No, I can't do this. You have someone in your corner saying, yes, you can do it. Believe in yourself. Keep pushing. You've got this. Then I think New York. Because again, I mean, like I said, it's a mecca. So there's gonna be lots of people there all chasing the same dream that you're chasing, and you're gonna have those hard days, but you got to get past those hard days, not let those hard days get to you. Try to, again, go that extra mile, make that extra step so that, yeah, you can really feel like you're doing it.
They'll have to embrace that, because you know what I did? I just packed my bags at the last performance. No English, no money,
Wow.
nothing, right? Nothing.
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, I'm buying tickets and I'm flying to California
Okay.
because of sunset and the palms in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Right? Have to be that young person
Totally.
for the others people, because that's big. You did basically the same thing. You
Yeah.
finished that. You're just like, I'm going to California. You didn't have a stable job
Yeah.
or anything, right? At
Yes.
first,
No.
have to be that person from your
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, no, like again, I was lucky. I had my partner and we kind of were that support for each other. Um, so I speak from a very privileged place of not having to do everything by myself, but there were some mental gymnastics of just like, are you good enough to make it, right? Are you good enough to make a name for yourself without being attached to an organization, right? Because it's easy to build yourself up when you're attached to something that's already great. But how do you then make yourself great when you're not attached to something? It's just you that you're saying you're great, right? And so I think it's a lot of, again, just trusting and believing yourself, knowing that the work that you've put in to get you to that point is enough to make a name for yourself, enough for you to go, yes, I can go somewhere and make a career, right? Because that was the beauty I was getting from ballet, was that you could pick any place on the map and say, I want to live there, and you can go live there and make a career, because everyone's got to dance, right? Everywhere you go in the world, there's some form of dance and you can make a career there. You just have to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, as they
That's just
say.
yes.
Put on your big I for me, it's put on I always tell myself, "You gotta put on your big boy pants and just do it." Okay, because sometimes if you think too much on it, you will eventually think of all the wrong things that will happen, and you'll let that influence your decision. And sometimes yes, the worst thing could happen, but also the best thing could also happen. So you've got to be willing to open yourself up to that opportunity of both.
So true.
Yeah.
So true. If you overthink, you might not do it, right? Yeah, so true. But we have to extract a lot of things like mental gymnastic and the tell words and subtitle. I think that's very special. I never heard before.
Yeah.
Mental gymnastic. And that was said, right?
I do a lot of them.
Yeah,
A
I
lot
like
of
it. There's gonna
mental
be a lot of
gymnastics.
subtitles.
Yeah.
That's what Thel said. That's what Thel said. Very nice.
A lot of
People are going to be looking for gymnastics videos, and they're going to find our ballet podcast.
Mental gymnastics. Very nice. And the other one you said, I forget what it was, but very cool one.
No,
Very cool.
okay, I'll
Very
take it.
special.
That's right. I know. I've got a lot of interesting weird sayings that I like to use even when I'm teaching. I know you've heard a number of them. So, yes.
Mental gymnastic. Very cool. But do you think people try to prove themselves when they do that? You know, they change their career, they move to different cities, they finding new friends, they do all of these new things and changing themselves. Do you think they're trying to prove something?
I feel like we're always trying to prove something. Like I think that's just who we are as people. I think and that unfortunately is what being a dancer is proving yourself. Like I don't know who it was. I'm not sure if it was my second company director in Charlotte or if it was Rayford here in California. But one of them said, "You're only as good as the last performance you did." I think it was Mark. I think it was Mark, my second company director in Charlotte. You're only as good as your last performance. And so as hard as it is, and that's one of the things that, sometimes weighed really heavy on me was you're only as good as your last performance. It's kind of true. We're always trying to remind people that we are great. We're prove to people that we have the knowledge or we have the talent or we have the ability to be great. And that's just life. I mean, I feel like that's just society. Everyone, whether they're an artist, whether they're a florist, whether they're a plumber, everyone is trying to prove that they are the best, the greatest to be doing what they're doing, and that's why you should be going with that person or whatever. It's we're all definitely trying to prove ourselves for sure. Yeah.
Which is dangerous, right? I mean, it's like almost like this like fine line, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because it does become performative.
Right.
It becomes very performative. And then sometimes in that performance, things falter because instead of actually doing good work, you're just trying to say that you're doing good work. And oftentimes, then I try not to be too boastful, but I like to sit back and let things play out sometimes the way they need to play out. Because if you have to constantly say that you are the best, that you constantly have to prove yourself in that sense, then you might not be the best. Though I don't want to say that in a negative way, but I think they say something along the lines of confidence is quiet or something like that. Somewhere there's some saying like that. And I think when you are great, you do have a sense of confidence. And if you're great and you have that sense of confidence, you don't have to keep saying.
Right, because it's like if you have to say it, it could be a sign of insecurity, maybe.
Yeah.
And like I think with like pride versus humility too, I think
Right.
about this a lot because I'm always like trying to improve myself, and one thing is like humans are just inherently prideful, you know what I mean?
Yes.
But it's not necessarily a good thing. Like and people use that term a little bit differently, and some people will say like there's levels to it. I think that there's a sense of confidence, and sometimes people say I'm proud of my accomplishments, and I understand that there's a good intent behind that usually.
Yeah.
But then there's like pride where we just like tend to think that we're capable of doing things, which we are, but like it can be taken to a certain level where it's unhealthy, and
Right.
and we're just like so good and so capable, right? So it's like,
Yeah, yeah.
and like I've had some people in my life that have said like, "Oh, I don't have pride," and
Mm,
it's like as soon as you say that,
mhm.
it's a big red
That's
flag. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
like, you know what I
Because like
mean?
yeah, I don't openly say this, but I like mentally I'm always just like know where you are, know where you fit in, and like and that one was a hard one for me because I like you said humans are prideful, and I was a very prideful person, and I definitely saw myself in a different light when I was younger than I do now, and you just have to know where you fit into a bigger picture, and I'm actually although I learned where I fit into a picture later than I probably should, I still got there to a point where I understood that I was never going to be front and center of a ballet company. Um, and so, but that was also okay. Like I had gotten into a ballet company. I had achieved the thing that I'd wanted to do. I whatever happened after that was just a cherry on top. But I achieved the thing that unfortunately not a lot of people get to achieve. A lot of people want to get into a company, would give up so much to be in a company. And at the time I was like, I took that for granted. I wanted to be front and center because I dreamed of it and it was gonna happen. But then I took a step back and I was like, but look, not to go down a whole rabbit hole, but I was like, there are certain aspects of your body that don't fit that ballet mold. There are certain aspects of your technique that don't fit a leading male role. And I even had a ballet master once say that um he gave himself a certain goal that at by 24, if he wasn't dancing certain roles, he would quit. And I was just like, that's so
Oh, wow.
toxic
Yeah.
because then you're telling me that like half of this company should be gone because as like they're like I danced for a really small company and they didn't give a lot of trust to their dancers and they did not allow for people to thrive and shine. And that's okay because again, not everyone is meant to. Everyone has a part to play in a ballet. Everyone has a role to play in a ballet company. You can't just do an evening of dance of two people. You need a company of people to support those two people or three people, whoever's at the top. You need a company of people to support them. And I got to a point where I was very happy to be in that supporting role because again, I mean, there's so much pressure when it comes to being front and center that I know I would have cracked. Like, I am an insomniac and I overthink and I dwell on things. Give me that plus the pressure of trying to be perfect because I am front and center and I absolutely know all eyes are on me. I'm so glad that I got to a point where I was just like, no, I can be in the back line. I can lift a girl here, I can lift a girl there. I can do a pirouette maybe. I can stand on the sideline, do an arm, and I'm still living my dream. I'm still getting to dance every single day. So, no, like it's you got to know where you are and where you fit in to a picture and put that pride aside and be humble like you were saying and know how you fit in to a picture because all ballet we're all part of a bigger picture and we all have a part to play. If everyone is the 1%, then isn't everyone then just the same? So it's that wheelhouse or that hamster wheel of just road to always going back to the same thing. No.
Yeah. You're just very grateful person. That's what it is.
I
Yes,
guess, I
yes.
guess.
I wish everyone could be grateful, right, for what
Yeah.
they have, just in the moment. Just be, I'm grateful,
Right.
right? I'm just
Yeah.
grateful. But I feel like everybody wants to go, go, go,
Go.
go.
Yes.
First front line,
They
front
want to
line.
be front and center, and it's
Yeah.
like, yes, I get it because again, I want it to be who doesn't want to be front and center, but there's so much greatness that happens on the sides. Like I absolutely loved I all of my best memories are not from when I was front and center, but from when I was a part of the group on on the sides of Sleeping Beauty or in Swan Lake. Actually, I didn't have to be on the side of Swan Lake. I got out of that. Like our advertisement was first, and I got to walk off stage. So it was great. But like a lot of my best moments were when I was a part of the collective. Like when you're a part of, there's just something about that camaraderie where you're not alone. When you have a group of people that are supporting each other, it's not just about one person, but it's about all of us and how great we can all be. That to me was that for me was more meaningful than anything that I could have done by myself.
The experience
Yeah.
with people in
Yeah.
that moment,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So true. How was life in the company? Do you have a good experience of supportive environment? Because, I had experience that it wasn't very supportive.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah. The people I danced with were very supportive for sure. And my first company when I was dancing in Charlotte, for the most part, though that artistic staff was supportive as well. Um, and even some of my staff in Richmond was also very supportive. There were a couple times where I got into situations with artistic staff, just about what my physical being was and basically how they wanted it to be something that it wasn't. And,
Interesting.
yeah, my
Okay.
jeans are my jeans. And unfortunately, my feet don't operate the way my hand does. So for that to be an expectation of me was I found absolutely ridiculous. And just certain aspects of my dancing weren't always people's favorite. And so in that sense, it kind of was weird because you're getting the contract year after year, but then you're still getting this sense of you need to be different, you need to change, you need to do this. So it was a weird situation, and it always will be because that's the art form. And people had their corrections for you, but it's one thing to have a correction and it's one thing for just wanting someone to be different but then still giving them a contract. So it was, again, I would say the people that I was dancing with, like, very supportive and could understand, we could all understand what we were going through because we all were going through the same exact thing. But in terms of the artistic staff, I think some of the artistic staff just needed some personal work and needed some personal growth, and could have done better in certain situations. But everyone has their things. Everyone has their things that they're looking for and wanting for people, and our ideas of where I want it to be were just different.
Well, I think, some on my experience, some people was hard on me and I thought that they don't like me. I'm doing something wrong. But, I realized later that there was actually love you and they trying to make you better, at that certain point from the weird side of
Yeah.
that, not trying to be encouraging, but giving you hard time.
Not that they do a very good
True
job at
timing,
it.
right,
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it just clicked for me a lot later that
Yeah.
people that was really hard on me,
Mm-hmm.
they were just trying to help
Oh,
me.
yeah.
And that's the way they know how to help
Help.
only.
You're right.
They don't have any other ways because they were in the same environment in
Right.
the past.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why they express themselves the way they do.
Right.
They snub, they do all of these things and they're giving you a really hard time, really
Yeah.
making you sweat out.
Oh, right. Yes. Be
Right.
nervous to do anything. Yes.
To do anything and then making you feel embarrassed in front of other people.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's just one
But
way
yeah.
they know how to give you the best they can,
Yes.
and sometimes it's not even personal.
No. For and like a lot of my instances where I would never say that the instances in the studio where they were trying to make me great where would be any instance where I would say that it was a negative experience, because like when I get into the studio, like that's a whole different beast. Like we have to strip down take away all of the personal when it comes to what happens in that studio. Like it is everyone in that studio is there for the greater good of the art. And so, again, yes, some of my directors, would tear us down in the studio. Uh, some, at least for me, it never got to a point where it was like, okay, you're actually being awful. Like I never got to that point. And so I always believed that every time someone gave me a correction in the studio, it was 100% for my betterment. the issue for me there were the conversations that would happen outside of the studio.
I see.
There would be conversations outside of the studio that would not be um useful for the productivity of my dancing. They were conversations to put ideas in my head about who I was as a person.
Right. That would be a toxic environment.
Yeah.
Right. Be in that environment and have that environment, people in that
Yeah.
environment that doesn't make company
Mhm.
better, but make it worse. I think it's a responsibility of the top people to make sure there's no people there like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's people like
I
that.
was yeah, and and I do think it's changing. That environment is not as common as I think it used to be, and I think it's definitely evolving. It's definitely changing, and people are trying to get rid of that toxic environment because for some reason, some people think that people can only thrive in toxic environments, and that's just not true. You can completely thrive in a very healthy environment. You just have to put in that work for it. Yep.
Maybe there's like a certain traditional understanding of things,
Yeah.
maybe, and that's where that stems from.
Yeah.
The way things have been done in the past, or
Yeah.
in like, you know, or even people being trained in like certain parts of Europe or something. I'm sure it's pretty difficult, and those old school teachers have been really tough on people and maybe to a toxic level.
Yes.
But why do you think that it's changed? Like, or do you have any idea what may have lent to the evolution?
I think it goes hand in hand with society. Although they're like everything becoming instant, not every behavior is tolerated the way it used to be, and people are more willing to stand up and say no, this is we've crossed the line of you giving me tough love to you being actually mean and horrible to me. And so we've entered an era where people are definitely using that voice that they have, because sometimes as dancers we we don't talk when we dance, right? We just dance. We just use our body, so we're not used to using our voice in a way. But I think again with social media and being able to like just express yourself so much in today's world that it's more common for people to say something's not right in a situation that they find themselves in if it's not right. And I think that's been as it's evolved and changed in normal culture, it's also bleeding into the ballet culture as well.
So, like, we wish we could say like society as a whole was getting nicer, but maybe that's not it. Maybe it's
No,
just,
I don't.
it's just,
I don't
it's
want to
just
say
that
nicer.
People are less willing to just put up with.
There, yeah. I would just say it's evolving. I don't. I don't want to use those terms. I don't want to say it's meaner, nicer. Because that's all a personal way and
Right,
how you
right.
perceive it. But things have changed in a way where people are definitely saying more, I think, than they have before.
But
yeah,
who is responsible for that? What do you think? In the companies,
the culture,
the culture,
sure.
yes.
Oh, 100%. It's the person at the top.
Right.
Like
So-
that is hands down what it comes down, like what everything boils down to when it comes to that company life is who is at the top. They set the tone. They set everything. They set the company's rep. They set who is in the company. Everything stems from the person who is at the top. And it is, if they put on blinders or they make different priorities, then it bleeds down. And they just have to, in my opinion, they have to make a positive environment a priority, because like I said, when we get into the studio, we have to strip away the personal. There are still lines that can be crossed, and so there has to be a precedent at the top, a protocol, something that says where that line is, so that way even when we are in the studio and there's none of that and that personal gets stripped away, that we still don't cross those lines, because you can be passionate without being harmful. And sometimes people think that their passion translates or has to translate to being harmful,
Right.
and that's just not true. And again, if the person at the top is allowing for that behavior, whether they're doing it themselves or allowing people under them to commit to that behavior, then it still, I believe, goes back to them. They set that precedent, and they have to say what is right and what is wrong.
Exactly. Well, our top line, people in the theater and the company, they just close their eyes.
Yeah.
We get literally beat up after
Mhm.
the rehearsal. Nobody did anything.
Thing.
It's
Yeah.
just like that.
Yeah.
It's like, because the
That's what
students, that's
happens.
how they treat the students. That's how
Mhm.
they treat the people,
Yeah.
And they set that kind of culture, and everybody's working that kind of environment and think it's
Normal.
right? They think it's just that's life. That's normal. No, that's
Yeah.
normal that people have treat you, right?
Right.
But it's not normal.
It's not. No, none of that stuff where it's kind of like I don't want to say hazing, but none of that stuff where someone has to feel demeaned afterwards or feel like less than. None of that is normal. That's something I think some of what is toxic or can be toxic about ballet is the coaching and training. Sometimes coaches feel that they have to influence every decision that a dancer makes, and they have to basically see themselves through that dancer. And they feel that the only way they can get to that point where that dancer will do everything that they say is then by belittling them. And that is such a issue in itself, and a whole mental thing that you can go down. But a lot of it, I also think, is just insecurity. Sometimes people, didn't feel like they had great careers or that they were great dancers or something, where some part of them is insecure, I think, about something, and then they put that insecurity onto someone else, and then you're left with this bullying or belittlement of people that just is so wrong, and it shouldn't be a thing. It should not be a thing.
Right. And maybe even not to the same degree of bullying, but like, I imagine that this is what happens with a lot of like dance parents and,
Hmm.
maybe they were dancers and maybe it's just like a cautionary tale, right? Of like being like, put your child in dance,
Yeah.
go ahead, go that route and see if it's something that is like a
For them.
calling for them.
Yeah.
But a lot of parents maybe take it too far.
Hmm.
And the only reason I bring this up is just because I think of it personally. I have a daughter and I so desperately want her to get into ballet.
Yeah.
She's only 3 now, but
Okay.
like, so we still have time.
Soon.
But like, like when I have my visits with her, I'm like trying to show her like passe,
Yeah.
and she's like half the time she'll do it and half the time she's all like,
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, it's okay. If she doesn't become a dancer,
Yeah.
don't worry, Aaron. It's not
She'll
the
have
end of
the
the
love
world.
for it. She'll have the love for
Maybe
it.
she'll still appreciate it, but I'm like,
yes.
so I just like think, I think about parents too, and maybe they could bully their kids or maybe not, but
Hmm.
just like kind of fits into that, right? Of just like of having these expectations and pushing your child in the dance
You're
world
right.
to an
Yeah.
unhealthy
Big
level.
You're right. You gotta let the kid or your kid or whatever make that decision for themselves, especially once they get to the point where they can make a decision. I mean, to a certain degree, right? It's the Olympics, and I'm seeing all of these posts that are they're not really you can take them with a grain of salt, I guess. But they're saying that they're upset that their parents didn't push them harder to do sports, like to stay committed. And so I do think there is a responsibility.
It's like a balancing act. Yeah.
Yes, it's a responsibility for the parent to be like, to have, I guess, to sit and have a conversation. Like, are you quitting because you have tried your hardest and you're not good at it and you don't want to do it? Or are you quitting just because you want to quit today? So it definitely is it's a conversation that's worth being had. Yeah. And so, like, yeah, like you said, you don't want to push them to an unhealthy point, but you also want to make sure you're teaching your child, commitment and sticking to something that you said you were going to do. And you never know how good you could be if you stick with it for a couple more months. So it definitely is that balancing act. But you want to do it all with having healthy and important conversations.
And the teachers have that same responsibility.
Oh,
And it's
absolutely.
a balancing act for them as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I just I like to my teaching philosophy is like just meeting people where they're at. Like, I mean, because I grew up in institutions where it was like it was either you do it our way or you're out. Like that was essentially what was happening. You know, if you audition for a program, you're going to meet their standards. Their standards are the end all be all, and that's it. And so where I'm not really teaching in places like that. So I'd like to meet people where they're at. So like if I get a group of people that are like super focused, super into it, then I'm going to teach to that level. But if I get to a group of students who are just kind of there to have a fun time, is it my favorite thing to do? Not necessarily, but I also know that there are fun aspects of this art form that don't involve training so rigorously and so intently. So I try to meet them at that level so that they can still have a good time with it and still say that they committed to something. Although it's not super intense, they can still say that did 5 years or 3 years training in ballet and they still got something from it. So it's just yeah, it's just a balancing act. And I think just meeting people where they're at.
Well, since we're talking about your teaching style, I think that maybe that's a good opportunity to talk about how you got into teaching. Going from like your training to a
Yeah.
profession, like and I ask this question too because I can't help but wonder. Like, I'm still really early on in my dance life, and I actually want to have a career in dance, even starting
Yeah.
so late. But like, I imagine that one day I want to teach people.
Yeah.
So is that, maybe everyone's a little bit different. Is that just kind of a default thing that you have early on where you're like, eventually I'm going to teach? Or
Yeah, at
is
least
that,
for me it
yeah,
was. Like
yeah,
that was the reason why I became a dancer. Like I didn't become a dancer to become a dancer. I became a dancer to become a teacher.
no.
Like my either second or third ballet class, my I just remember looking at my teacher and going, "Oh my God, wow, it's so amazing that this person has so much knowledge of this art form." And at that point, she had taught us the combinations that we were going to do that week. And so she was sitting in the stool and just correcting us, just using her words, trying to get us to understand what to do with our bodies. And it was like, I want to get to a point where I can do that. Like, I want to do that because I just thought that was so cool. Like, she can sit here and teach us how to move our bodies. Like, she has all of this knowledge in there. So, from there on, all of my training was more steeped into when you become a teacher. And so then when I could teach, like when I had the opportunity to start teaching, I took it as soon as I could. And so I started teaching at Nutmeg Summer Intensive, I would want to say right after I got like my first actual not my second company contract, but my first actual company contract. That summer I started teaching and have basically just been teaching since because that's all I really wanted to do.
Yeah.
The dancing's great. Don't get me wrong, the dancing's great, and I do love to dance, and that art form is great. But like, what always was always the driving force for me was to become a teacher.
Being a great dancer, meaning you're gonna be a great teacher?
No, no, no. I and no, no, no. I just sorry. It just doesn't. It does not. It doesn't translate. Unfortunately, because a lot of people that are great dancers are talented, and that's okay because it's an art form. It's visual. It's subjective. And so when you're great at something, most likely it's very natural, and if something's very natural to you, you have a very hard time explaining it, right? Like that love of ballet that we said. It's not like we forced that love. It just happened and we don't know how to explain it. Now, if doing a perfect tendu, a perfect plie, a perfect pirouette, if all that came natural, how to explain that to someone where it doesn't become natural is very difficult. And so it's really hard to say that if you're a great dancer, you're a great teacher. So a lot of really great teachers that I had did not have really good careers. Some of them would say they weren't even great dancers, right? But they had a love of the art form and they had a love for understanding the technique of ballet, and that's what made them great teachers. So I will not say that being a great dancer translates to being. Now, there are some great dancers who are great teachers, and I think it's because they had probably at some point in their journey had some come to technique moment where they just fell in love with explaining things or the nuances of it or whatever it may be. But I don't think that happens in every case. And some great dancers are just that. They're great dancers. And some mediocre dancers are great teachers. And it just depends on the person and their love for it.
So true. A lot of people say that I know the Vaganova. They know her, Agrippina Vaganova,
Hmm.
and said she never was a great dancer.
Hmm.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
She
Yeah.
never was a great
Yeah.
dancer.
I've heard that
Interesting.
as well.
Right.
Yeah.
But
But
what does great mean? You
I
know?
know, I know people that know her personally. I was
Mhm.
talking to them, and she never was a great dancer.
Uh-huh.
The
But
story.
right.
Yes.
Yeah. She had an understanding of what a dancer needed and could
Exactly.
create this syllabus that is so useful for so many.
So
So
many for
yeah,
so long, right?
for
Let's
so
keep going.
long. No, absolutely.
You work in a company, now you're teaching.
Yes.
What is the difference between working in the company, earning money in the company, and teaching?
Um,
Because for the young generations, 18, 19, 20, well, they have to make a living. They're not
right.
just
Yeah.
receive the money from their parents. They have to go in the real life,
It-
make a living of
yes.
what they want to do.
Yeah. I would, teaching and dancing, I would say the pay is very much the same. Sometimes, depending on what you're doing, where you're doing it, how you're doing it, you probably could get a little bit more dancing or again, teaching, just depending on how you um advertise yourself. Because again, you once you get into like a freelance life or something, you become your CEO, your CFO, your chief marketing person. You are that for
The,
the
the
for your body.
brand,
You are your brand,
the
you are your
brand,
business.
the product.
Exactly. You're everything. So I think it just depends on where you are and how you end up marketing yourself to said business or however, wherever you're going. But I would say that teaching allows a little bit more longevity because it's not as much wear and tear on the body and you can branch out into different areas. Whereas when you're dancing, I think that it kind of boxes you into, okay, I just have to sit here and dance, right? Like my job is to dance. And so I'm gonna dance and that's it. And I might get an opportunity to maybe choreograph, but when you're a teacher, you get that opportunity to teach. You then sometimes find yourself ending up having to choreograph and then from there, you'll find yourself ending up to maybe having to direct. Like you end up going into so many different avenues when you're a teacher that you may not have even like sometimes I find myself in situations where I'm like, oh, okay, I'm doing something that I didn't make a conscious decision to do. It just ended up happening because of where I was in that sitting in that teacher's chair. But both um are very passionate jobs just in different ways. Like when you're dancing, you're giving it all to just this movement of being. Whereas when you're teaching, you're passionate about pouring out this knowledge that you have that you're trying to inspire the people that you're standing in front of. So,
So being a dancer, 19 years old, going to the company, can they make a career of it? Make a living every day?
oh, yes. I mean, again, it also depends on where you are physically. Like some cities are harder to make a living than there are others. Like, just because cost of livings are different from city to city. So you want to make sure like if you're
How much is enough for the dancer to make a living? How much is it people pay right now in the
no.
company?
Oh gosh. It's been a while. I think when I was joining I think my first year in Richmond, I think my salary was $750 a week.
A week.
Uh-huh. But again, cost of living was very low there. And it was very manageable. Like could have a nice apartment, I could have a car, could go grocery shopping, could live life fully.
How many years ago that was?
I know that was Oh God, Ivan. About say 8 or 9 years ago.
Right these days,
Yeah.
making
No.
$750 a
Yes.
week.
No.
What do you think? How is it possible for young dancer or
Yeah.
being in New York and hustle that
Yeah.
much? What is it?
No, I think if you're going to do it now, you have to, and but that's also the culture we're in now too, where everyone has a side hustle. Like you have to find time, because like even when I was dancing and we had trainees or apprentices, they would still have jobs on the side. Like I saw lots of kids either have jobs at Trader Joe's, or they were waiters at restaurants. It's kind of like being an actor. Like if you're an actor, if you're wanting to be an actor in LA, you got to come and you've got your side hustles, and then you're auditioning, and then you've got your side hustles, and then you maybe book that job, and so then you quit some of those side hustles for a little bit, you do your job, and then you go back to your side hustles. And so it's kind of much that same mentality. Whereas, like, if you're going into a company job, like, you still maybe like most company contracts are 25 to 30 weeks, and that's about it. And then you have to, those weeks that you're not employed, you got to figure out something to do. So you're either at Trader Joe's, you're waiting tables at restaurants, you're figuring out what to do.
Or teaching.
Yeah, or teaching. Well, I mean, because that's I know a lot of dancers that were like, I'm not teaching. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
they were like, I'm not stepping into that role because for numerous reasons, but they've had to figure something else out. Like you definitely have to figure something else out. It's not gonna be the thing that makes you that $1 million that you would want it to. Although you're putting in all of that work and all of that passion. So you have to absolutely do something on the side. And the bigger the company gets and the bigger the city gets, the more you're most likely going to have to hustle on the side. I actually, this morning I was again scrolling through social media, and a post came up, and it basically was saying how, like, even at City Ballet, they still New York City Ballet, they're still struggling to get a pay that reflects the city that they live in. Principal dancers are still having to fight this fight of getting paid the amount of money that they deserve to live in a city that they're working in. And so it kind of is feels like it's always going to be this uphill battle, is because not all arts organizations can have the funding to pay out dancers the way they really should. Um,
Hold yourself tight because you'll be very surprised. I talked to Colorado director
mhm.
and they pay dancers and they give a contract for over 35 weeks.
Okay.
Almost no one works at the Starbucks
Wow.
afterwards, and they get paid even when they don't work.
That's great.
Can you imagine? That's
That's
one of the company.
fantastic.
They really doing good job.
Yeah.
Over 35 weeks, and after the season is over, they still get paid.
Yeah.
That's amazing. But that's what I heard.
That's great.
That's amazing.
Yes. I
Really, right?
love that. That's fantastic.
Why do you get, and I guess this might even be a question for both of you guys, but like, why do you think that I understand that some organizations or companies might not have the funding,
Mhm.
right? That's understandable. But why do you think? I would imagine, and maybe I'm wrong, but I would speculate that the bigger ones
Mhm.
do have the money, maybe. So, what do you think some of the reasons are besides lack of funding in some cases why dancers aren't getting paid enough? And what do you think the solution to that might be? And maybe this is a silly example,
Yeah.
but I think it's worth asking. Like, what about maybe the idea of a union for dancers?
There is a union.
Is
There
there?
there is a
Okay.
union. And even within that union, there's still lots of negotiations because again, it differs from company to company. But I think some of it stems on the fact that, things have to be bigger and they have to be more now. So you can't a lot of these bigger companies, they want to perform a lot so that they can get that ticket revenue, but that means you also need a big company, because if you're wanting to do these long runs of shows, you need a company that can support that. Like you can't have a company of 16 doing a 3 or month run of a show. Like you need a company to support that. So it doesn't always balance out because you need more dancers. So that means you have to pay more people and you have to pay them a certain amount. And it's I it's mental gymnastics that I
Yes.
just can't always figure out the solution to, because I think that each route you go to, there's a sacrifice that has to be, because you're trying to be great. You're trying to make sure that the productions you put on are great, but then people can get paid, whether it's a whole lot or a little. You're trying to pay people, and then you've got a market, and then you've got a whole team of administrative people behind the artistic team. And so it just ends up being a lot of bodies that the company has to pay. Um, I will say though that in my experiences, the oftentimes the dancers are usually the ones that are paid the least. And I think that motto 100% has to change, because everyone in that building is there because of the dancers, and no one would be in that building if there were no dancers. And so I do think that in some instances that the dancers should definitely be paid. Their pay should be the priority. I'm not saying they either need to get paid. They definitely should get paid more. Um, but I don't know if that's the solution, but the priority should always just be to pay the dancers first, and then figuring out everything after that. But
I think the main problem in it is because there's not enough money, not enough funds
Mhm.
to pay dancers. A long time ago in Soviet Union, in SSSR,
Yeah.
right? The dancers had a car, had the agent, had the apartment, had everything. They had all the tickets to get the best food that
Right.
rest cannot get it.
Hmm.
So the dancers being valued so much back then, but then world has changed, everything is shift. And I truly believe that teacher job and what we do in the dancers being very much not valued
Yeah.
as supposed to be, because there are so many other things that people do, and they fund so many other things that are not as important as dance. And
Dance.
people
Yeah.
look at a dance as like, oh, that's just an activity, but no,
Yeah.
it's more than that.
It is, because when you're, like I said, when you can go and sit and whether it's a theater or an opera house, and sit and be moved by a performance, whether you're walking away going, yes, I want to go take a ballet class or not. If you can sit there and say that that was great and be moved by it, there should be funding towards that. There should be an incentive to go, this 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 art form that has so much history behind it needs to be preserved, right? It's almost like walking into a living museum, or a living arts museum. Like, you can see the history behind the art form when you go to a live performance. And there should be, I wish there was more incentive for people, that once they sat in that seat and go, wow, that was beautiful, to go, yes, I want to support that now. And I think sometimes people don't think that the little bit that they can give will go a long way. Like, if you've got a theater full of people where they all give $1, that's $14,000 right there. So that in that one evening, you can cover something. I don't know what, but, like, and let's say that happens night after night. They paid their ticket sales, but then they also donated $1 or $2 or $3. Just that little bit goes so much further than just, oh, I just gave $2. Like,
Definitely.
yeah, I don't, I,
Yeah,
if people, and that's why I said it, like, when I said we all are part of this bigger picture,
right.
right? No one's 2 cents is worthless. It still goes a long way if you're willing to give it.
Well, we have like this culture right now too, where you see it with like concerts a lot, like
Mhm.
musical concerts, is people are always complaining on social media or otherwise about the prices of tickets.
Yes. Yeah.
And I understand that, some artists and management teams might overcharge in some sorts. So, but I think that the consumer generally doesn't understand all of the expense and
That's
everything that goes into a show. And so I imagine that there are probably consumers out there with ballet as well, or, stuff like that, where they just think, oh man, it's a few $100s for a ticket. Like, it's so much money. Like, why do they have to charge so much? But they don't understand the numbers behind it.
right.
And they don't understand that even though they're getting charged $300 or more for a ticket, that they're just like then it's not like they're making a killing.
Yeah, no, that money's getting distributed by like that $300 goes to the production team, the artistic team, the performers on stage, and then the electricity bill,
Right, in the venue.
the venue,
Yeah.
the insurance,
Yeah.
all of the things that go on to make one performance happen.
Costumes, yeah.
Everything.
The list goes
It's
on and on.
The
Yeah.
list is quite extensive,
Yeah.
and it's not just one person getting the money from that ticket sale. It gets diluted quite a bit,
Right.
for sure. Yes.
Yeah.
No.
We all hope that they will change in the future and hope they
Yeah.
will hear more and the government will support ballet a little bit more
That
because
was-
they fund so many different things,
Mhm.
but ballet at the least.
Government funding what changes the game. I mean, you look at Europe and the companies in Europe and what they're able to do. That government funding truly does go quite a long way. I mean, and that stood the test of time even from a long time ago to now. Like the government funding, I think, is so important to just keep it because it also it reminds people that it's there when it's government funded. Like when the state is putting something on, they're going to make sure that that theater is full of people to see that performance.
Right.
So it just I think funding by the government is
Well, I
What
guess like 501c3 might, you could get grants and stuff like that too. So,
Mhm.
so I think that like if arts companies were to maybe follow that structure,
Yeah.
and it may or may not make sense for them from a business perspective, right? But like,
some of them do.
But
I
yeah.
do know a good chunk. of
I
them.
know Ivan has a 501c3 California Ballet Theater,
Yeah.
which is behind a lot of the productions that they've been
Yeah.
on here at the studio. So I think it's a smart way to go, and it
Right.
can help open up some of that funding and help to
Yeah.
kind of relieve some of the pressure. a
Yeah,
little bit,
no, it does. No, it does.
Yeah.
It does. It helps. It helps. But there's always everyone can do a little bit more.
Right, yeah.
So true. So true.
Yes.
So, what like as you started getting into teaching and just like dancing in general, right?
Mhm.
Like I think that not a lot of people think about the business side of things, and like dancers do start thinking about it, whether they realize it or not,
Mhm.
right? Like,
Yeah.
so I mean, you're kind of like your own independent contractor,
Yeah.
right? And even now, like, I don't know everything that you do for a living, but I assume that a lot of your income probably still does come from dance related stuff.
Yes.
So I want to know like how that, growth has happened over time and how when you really started thinking of it as a business and,
Yeah.
and just the challenges and everything that,
It's I think about a year and a half or so after, like I had to learn some tough lessons during tax season. But yeah, I at this point, I try to, as much as I can, work in instances where I can do either a W-2 or a W-9, just so I don't have to do so much legwork at the end. Um, but I know some dancers prefer the 1099 so they can get everything up front and then budget accordingly. A lot of the work as a freelancer, as an independent contractor, is just planning, understanding that you can't, if you just plan from job to job, you're going to find yourself very stressful. But you have to plan from the beginning of the month and then think about what you're going to be doing for the next year, and then the year after, and then the year after, and just start planning as much as you can that work like that. And again, that's something that a company does for you. And so when you make that jump, it was a hard lesson to learn for sure. But you have to be ready to plan, have contacts, keep in contact with people, be hungry for work, be looking for work, always asking if someone needs something. Do they need a teacher? Do they need a choreographer? Do they want to do a master class? Do they need a guest artist? There's always more to be done, or there's always something that you can give to someone that can create work and a path for you. And so for the most part, it's you are both marketing yourself and then planning the actual work for yourself in the future.
All right, yeah.
Yeah.
And so do you do kind of a combination of all of those things? Like, do you still hire yourself out for live performances and ballets, or and are you just kind of doing like an amalgam of all of those things that you talked about?
Yes. I try to do less dancing these days, just because it's so hard to stay in shape, as we know. And as I get older and I'm realizing I'm doing so many things wrong, I want to then do it less because I'm just like, what are you doing? But every now and then I'll get that itch that I'm like, okay, it's been a little while, like, get back in class, start dancing again, and then so you can go back on stage. So every now and then I will dance like I did Nutcracker this past year, even though the year before I hadn't done Nutcracker. So it varies. I try to stay active as much as I can in my life. So when I do try to make that jump back into dancing, I can with as little pain as possible. But we'll for the most part, I like to look for work in the teaching aspect. So every now and then I'll do some choreographing because I do have a little bit of a creative mind for that. I love music. But like I said, teaching was the thing that got me into this field, and it's the thing I want to do the most. So that's kind of what I'm
Yeah,
sticking.
you've never lost that.
No,
Yeah, yeah.
even those very long teaching days where I just feel like no one's listening to me, and what I'm saying is not being absorbed. I still go back the next day like ready to keep teaching. Like
I
there's yeah.
I see the pain. I hear the pain in his voice. I hear the
Yeah,
pain.
no, I mean, and every teacher has it, it's tough when you are especially teenagers, they have their own lives and they sometimes just get into a studio and things go in one ear and they go out the other and you're just like, but listen, just listen, just give me your attention for an hour and a half and then you can go off and do whatever you want, but just this hour and a half, give me your attention. And sometimes they give you that attention and then sometimes they don't, and you just got to walk away going, you tried your best. And yeah.
But I mean, we were troublemakers too, right? So to be honest, right?
I
A little bit.
I would say a little bit, but I sometimes I don't know because like I'll like try to rack my brain and like for sure every now and then, I talk in class, but I was lucky. I was enamored by my teachers, especially when I moved to Nutmeg. Like I loved my teachers so much. And anytime they had anything to say, I was just like trying to eat most of it up. Just because not only just them as teachers, but them as people. Like I loved them, who they were as people. And I just wanted to hear what they had to say. Now, of course, yes, there were some days where I was being a teenager and could have cared less what they had to say. And, some kids were talking in class and I joined the conversation. But my general um memory of being in school was definitely just like loving my teachers and like wanting to be around them and listen to their stories and listen to what they had to say. So yeah, it kind of goes back and forth.
Definitely.
Also there's the other aspect is like whether even if they want to listen or try to listen, right? It's like I heard Rick Warren say once, he's a pastor, and he said something like people just forget, like there's a scientific study, people forget like 90 something percent of things that is
Yeah.
said. So or I don't know, I'm totally paraphrasing that, but
Right.
there's something behind
Yes,
that, right?
yes,
And
yes.
he's all like, that just makes me want to die. Like
Right, because I
as
mean,
a
you're
public speaker,
right?
yeah.
You're speaking so much, and then you're like, you're only gonna get like a fraction
Yeah, yeah.
of what I'm saying, which is why I end up repeating myself, and then I go into that saying that what is it? Repeating the same thing over and over again is the definition of insanity. So like I'm just gonna end up going insane by the end of this. Like if I keep because like I want to make sure the information sticks, so I'm happy to repeat it. But at the same time, if I keep repeating it, am I going to go insane? Like that's the big question that I ask myself. Will I eventually at the end of this go insane?
Every day, same, right? Every time.
It's the big question.
So how did you market yourself besides the obvious networking? I think with other people
Hmm.
is the most powerful way
Absolutely.
for sure.
Yes.
So but like, did you have any other methods that you used? I mean, do you leverage social media or
My performance career. I mean, I was lucky, to have been trained by great people and then to have then gone on to have a professional career where I've got to work with also great artists and perform great works. So, and in works that not everyone is either granted the ability or even had the opportunity to do. So I just like to, if it's not through personal connection, then it's through what my resume has to say. Because for me, that was always my thing, is the work that I've done should be what speaks for me. Like, yes, networking is the thing that we all have to do, and it's not my favorite thing to do, and it's not my favorite thing to rely on for work. But that is just the world we live in, and that's how it works. So I'm happy to do it. But past that, if I don't want to go further than the work that I've done, because I don't want to misrepresent myself. I don't want to get in a situation where someone's expecting something of me that I can't give. So I like to say these are the things that I've done. This is where I've trained. This is the wheelhouse that you get when you hire me. And that's it. If that's something that you need and can get behind, great. And if that's not something you can get behind, also great. Because like I said, when I was in a company, I didn't understand that want for me to be different. And I don't want to mislabel myself. I don't want to misrepresent myself. I want to show up who I am and the things that I've done and let that speak for me. And that's it. I don't want to go past that because I don't want to get into any kind of place where I I feel bad for not being able to be the thing that they need from me.
Right. And it's funny because you see like people talk about like there's always this joke about like when you're applying for jobs, like
Yeah,
padding your
that's
resume
right.
and like acting like you're so experienced in it when you're
Yes,
not,
yeah.
and then you get hired and it's like, but like I feel like as a
That's right.
dancer, especially in ballet, like yeah, you're gonna really look like an idiot if you do
But the thing
that.
is no, but like not really, because like the thing we said the most in school was fake it till you make it.
Oh,
And
okay.
like, and I still say it when I'm teaching, like you have to, like there is a bit of it where you have to kind of fake it, because sometimes the experience that you need to get to a certain level, you have to take that
Right.
first step
Yeah.
at some point. And so you kind of do have to fake this confidence and this I've got this attitude to make it
Right, but
happen.
while still tempering their expectations a
Expectation,
little bit.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yes, yes. It's another very
yeah.
fine line to
Yeah,
walk.
yeah, yeah. For sure. Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
It's
yes.
like, yeah, I've never done this before, but I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
But just know.
Yeah. And then that's also a little bit of like relying on the again, the resume that I've had. Like I've been lucky enough to do a variety of different things and have covered quite a vast vocabulary of work. So that like I may not be have done that exact thing, but I've maybe have done something like it. So if I can also tiptoe around certain things that way, because just of the experience that I've had allows me to be a little bit confident stepping into certain situations. Like I would never go into like a full contemporary company that wears socks and rolls on the floor for most of their repertoire and go, yeah, I got this. I would never do that, because like that was not any of the kind of work that I did. But if I can walk into a company where they do some neoclassical work, maybe they go on the floor once or twice and then some lifts. Like even though I may not have done any of the company's rep, the work that I've done before, I would feel very comfortable, confident walking into and just going, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah. My mentor, John Lane, he's like such a good man, great
Mhm.
mentor. And the reason I bring him up is because I was applying at one point for a position at a high school as a guitar tutor.
Mhm.
Okay. But I've played guitar off and on throughout my life, and it was just a cool opportunity, I thought, and ended up not getting the job. But the point is as I was putting the resume together, I'm kind of hyper analyzing it, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm on the broadcast team at Saddleback Church and I film, but I tell my mentor, I'm like, but that's not related. And he's
Mm.
all, but it is related
Yeah.
because you're filming musicians and guitarists and stuff. And so I don't know. I guess it kind of opened up my eyes when he said that, to how sometimes we tend to say, well, this is not related to this. We choose to look at how they're different instead of how
How
they're
they're
related,
yeah, how they're similar.
and I think that
Yes.
that's a useful skill to have, to
Yeah,
be able to extract those similarities,
absolutely.
especially when it comes to your resume
Mhm.
and, putting yourself out there. But, you were afforded some really awesome opportunities to be able to build your resume.
Yeah.
But how does somebody navigate not having any experience or having very little experience? And like you said, getting those opportunities without the resume, I mean, it's tough. Like, I know, like, I just like applied for a dancer role for a show, and I was like, well, I don't really have anything. I just
Yeah.
performed in the Nutcracker. And
Mm.
so I put some footage of that. And then I also filmed myself at the bar. Right.
Okay.
So it's like, I kind of had to just like do whatever I could to put a reel together.
Yes.
But it's, so like, but what are your tips or ideas on how to navigate that?
I would say that's where you go into mm, now I'm blanking on the word, but networking. That's where you would go into the networking, having friends of friends, or even going in that social media route. Like so many people have so many reels on their Instagram, on their TikTok, on their Facebook or whatever, where they can say, all right, like I know you're looking for something. I don't have an actual like full 15-minute reel, but I have these videos on my social media. Take a look through my social media, like finding the ways, different ways. Also going into open classes. There's so many I've passed up so many opportunities just by going to open classes, and there was a choreographer there, or there's a director there, and no one was necessarily there to look for work, but that work just ended up being able to be given. So going and just being in a place where there are like-minded people in your field, going to places where they gather, and just being there, whether you're there actually looking for work, or just there because you want to be in that space and hoping that something comes out of it. That is also a very good route to take, because eventually at some point someone's going to be in that space looking for something, whether they mean to or not. They're going to be in that space looking for something, and you could fit that bill. So for someone who doesn't have that resume, I would say open classes and networking are hand in hand going to be definitely your best bet. And then going into the studio, filming yourself, either making your own 15-minute reel or putting it on social media to see how far that reach can get. And maybe you might get something that's not here but somewhere else. So
Yeah.
it's definitely putting yourself out there in that sense. And it's great that we have this now social media that makes it just a little bit easier to do that in
Yeah.
a sense.
Yeah.
Now, it's podcast coming till the end.
Mhm.
I have a question for you. What would you wish to all youth generation, all of the young dancers, to get to that point, to
Mhm.
go to the professional company as you did, to get in the right place in the right time? What would be your wish for all of the young dancers who wants to take the
Take.
same path?
Oh my gosh. Love it. I would say love it. My wish for them is to love it and to find joy in it. Because it's a hard job to do, to show up every day and physically put yourself through what you have to do to be a ballet dancer. And if it's not fulfilling you emotionally, it's not going to fulfill you in any other way. And so you end up being resentful to this thing that can be so great. And so my wish for anyone going out there and trying to do this as their profession is to fully love it, because there have been people who've been great at it and didn't love it and resented it afterwards. They had everything going for them and easily had jobs, but the love wasn't there for it, and they ended up resenting it just because of the things that happen in that company life. So I would just say you've got to love this thing, because it's going to ask so much from you, whether it's fair or not fair. It's going to ask a lot, and if you're not willing to give it up, then don't don't do it. Don't do it. Love it fully and be willing to give everything that it's asking from you.
Beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful. Tell, if people wants to reach you out, ask you a question, where would they reach you out?
They can find me on Instagram
What
at
is it?
Thel Moore.
Tell more.
Same on Facebook.
Same on
I'm
Facebook,
there.
okay.
Yeah.
And we can even put your socials in the description on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it was such a beautiful
Thank you
podcast
so much
today,
for having me.
right?
This
It
was
It's
so
so,
fun.
so fun.
This
I
was
loved
really
it. This
fun.
was amazing.
This is my
was-
first
yeah.
podcast. I was so
It was-
nervous.
I
Now
am
this
so
is great.
happy.
an amazing experience, and I think it will be really helpful for all the youth generation, all the dancers too, to somebody who wants to go to California
Yeah.
and start that freelance job and do all of these things, hustle.
Come, yes,
Or to
no,
New
so-
York. Or to New
yeah,
York.
yeah. I mean, California. I mean, you get sunshine. Like
I love California.
California is
I
great.
do love California.
California is great. Yeah, Yes.
So true.
Thank you so
It
much for
was
having me.
it was amazing. Thanks so
Yes.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great,
I'll
great.
see you in class.
All right. Yes. Yes.